Long time ago, there was a scholarly Brahmana who lived in a peaceful village. He was very learned in the sacred texts and spent most of his time offering prayers and oblations for the well-being of others. Anyone who would see him in his daily routine would assume that he was very serious in the path of self-realization, and in fact he was. However, there was a problem. On the opposite side of the street, right in front of his house, lived a prostitute. She was quite young and beautiful, and therefore rarely would an hour pass without some client knocking at her door. Daily, the Brahmana would sit in his doorway and recite loudly the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, murmur the Gayatri mantra, and then worship the temple deity. In the meantime, the prostitute would tend to her business across the street. As time passed, the Brahmana became more and more disturbed by the prostitute. He would loudly complain about how such a disgrace it was to have such a low person living so close to the temple, maintaining her illicit business right across the street. He would arrogantly consider himself a very learned Brahmana and see the prostitute as a low, almost inhuman creature. As the years passed, he grew more and more disgusted with the situation, cursing the prostitute and calling her bad names. He couldn't stop mentally criticizing the prostitute even while chanting his mantras or worshipping. Gradually he became more and more harsh, proud and intolerant, not only with the prostitute, but with others as well. One day there was a natural disaster in the area, and both died at exactly the same time. To the Brahmana's surprise, he saw the Vishnu Dutas, the messengers of the spiritual world, coming to deliver the prostitute, while the Yamadutas, the messengers of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, were approaching him. He immediately protested, "This must be a mistake. I'm supposed to go to the spiritual world and this prostitute to hell, not the opposite." The Yamadutas replied, "Dear Brahmana, there is no mistake. Although you were externally executing the activities of a Brahmana, internally you were constantly meditating the activities of the prostitutes, while considering yourself very elevated. Due to this, your consciousness became polluted. The prostitute, on the other hand, passed her days hearing your recitations of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Becoming purified due to this hearing, she was constantly lamenting her material condition and hoping she could become a devotee of Krishna in her next life. Thus, you became fit for becoming a prostitute in your next life, while she became qualified to be promoted to the spiritual world." The moral of this story is that when we criticize people, our consciousness becomes absorbed in their bad qualities, and thus we gradually develop such bad qualities ourselves. Conversely, when we admire the good qualities of others, praise and serve them, we develop these good qualities in due time. Another meaning is that the goal of any spiritual process is to change our consciousness, developing qualities such as purity, self-control, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion, modesty, forgiveness, cleanliness, freedom from envy, and so on. If instead one develops qualities such as pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance, it means there is something wrong with his practice, and the final result will not be so positive. On the other hand, even if a person is not able to properly follow all the rules and regulations of the spiritual process, if he is humble and sincere enough to observe and learn from others who are following, still he may achieve the same result. The Brahmana was condemning the prostitute based on her external activities, without understanding her heart. The prostitute, on the other hand, could understand that she was on the wrong path and regretted it. Being humble, she could see and admire all the spiritual activities the Brahmana was performing, while at the same time not paying attention to his cursing and harshness. The Brahmana was seeing only the bad, while the prostitute was seeing only the good.